What got you into this?
I've always been kind of into the paranormal. Since my kids were young, I'd always go to Gettysburg or Boston, and I always loved the way they mixed history with the ghost stories. And I thought that was a fascinating way to hold people's interest. Initially getting into it, I really didn't think much of the paranormal world. I thought it was more of a fantasy. And so I got more into it. And being a journalist and having a video and photography background, you know lens flare, you know dust orbs, you know what's going on with the obvious things that you've been trying to avoid. So I could see when I was getting something that was unusual. Then being more into the video end, as we transferred into HD video, it was you were catching good quality sound, good quality video, and we were picking up some very unusual things. And it got to the point where I had too many things where I couldn't explain, and then I much more seriously got into it, and we started to actually go on full-fledged ghost investigations. And that's kind of how I stepped into it. And next thing you know, I caught a couple of large, good pieces that got published, and I kind of got my name out there. And for good or bad, now I'm known as an investigator of the paranormal.
When was your first experience?
First experience, I guess, was actually back in the hometown where I grew up in Bayshore. And that was actually at Sagda Coast Manor. We were doing some ghost hunting there. And we actually got inside the building. We were doing an investigation for the town when they were still allowing that. It was a private thing. And we actually got this black mist caught on camera moving across the room. So I'm not talking a piece of dust or anything. This is something large that moved across the room, which is pretty wild. And at the same time, we too were out in the graveyard, which we generally don't do graveyards, although for video it's a great B-roll. But at this point, I was getting this mist coming from the graves themselves. It looked like a mist, and we could not see it with our eyes, but the camera was picking up on infrared. So I actually brought my daughter over and said, Holly, look at this. You see what this is? And this mist was rising. And I'd take another shot, and it was actually expanding across the graves. And then, like that, the next shot, it was just a million orbs. So, once again, to this day, I don't know what it was. Was it natural gases coming out of the graves? It was kind of odd that it popped into a million little orbs and then gone. It's almost like something dissipated as it came out. But that was the first time we got, like, in one weekend, got two major things. It was kind of enough to hook you in and made you want to investigate a lot more.
What's been where you've been most afraid?
Most afraid? I'll be honest with you, I don't think the paranormal stuff scares me as much as when I first started. It was the embarrassment of having a cop roll up and going, what's a grown man like you doing in the building over here? Even though he wouldn't trespass into a building, but sometimes you would kind of like push the rules a little bit and you'd be on property when you didn't have an okay. So that was probably the scariest thing, just being, feeling like you're an idiot out there doing it. One of the first things we actually did when we got into it seriously and started a group was to make up business cards. This way we just look stupid. If we got stopped, we could give them a business card saying we were paranormal investigators. But I've had times where we've actually been in places and we've had a lot of things happening, and all of a sudden your equipment starts to fail. And that first couple of times that happens, that can be kind of unnerving. All of a sudden now you feel like you're losing control of what little bit you have. All of a sudden now your camera's not working. The recorder failed. And those batteries are charged and everything's fresh. And that's unnerving the first few times it happens. Now you know better to make sure you have backups of everything. So as soon as something fails now, you'll see on all the videos we have published, we're right away start yelling at everyone else, film it, take lots of pictures, because we're trying to catch whatever it is. And that's the same reason we have lots of different equipment. The more stuff you can have out there, you want audio, you want video, you want the EVP meters, you want, everything you can possibly get to try to capture something. This way, it's more proof, because otherwise you're just telling someone a personal experience. You want to be able to show them something. And even when you show something good, you're going to have the naysayers out there anyway. So
You do the tours on the weekend. What can someone expect from that?
The tours are good. Actually, our tours are legit ghost hunting. We actually pass out K2 meters. We have mel meters and assorted stuff. We explain how they work. It's a 2-hour tour. And it's not just weekends. It's pretty much any day after 7 we start the tours. The museum's open from 1 to 7, and the reason we close at 7 is because of the tours. And basically, They're going to get the feel of really ghost hunting, because that's what you're doing. There's no props, there's no pneumatics, nothing make-believe, no one's banging on the walls. So it is what it is. To be honest with you, we've never had a day we've had nothing. We have had days where it's been slow. I mean, because the ghost and the paranormal doesn't work on command. We've had days where it's been crazy active, as you can read some of the people have written. We've had chairs move, keys disappear, dice move, people touched. We've gotten EVPs, voices, sometimes just disembodied voice where we actually hear it. And then we'll get other things. In the person's ordinary, we get this groan sound, which is pretty consistent, to the point where I've gone through the crawl space and looked through the chimneys thinking, we have an owl or pigeons living in here, but it moves. And actually, we'll be out the front of the building before we start, and we'll be explaining some of the history and a little bit of stuff before we go in. And we've actually heard it out there, so it's very, very strange.
When did you realize, hey, I've got enough stuff, I need to open a museum?
Probably my wife started complaining about all the junk I have. I mean, how many Bigfoot tracks can you have? But I love this stuff. And now, since we started the museum, we've got more coming in. We have a haunted wheelchair being donated to us. We have multiple dolls. At this point, I haven't got to the point where I've turned anything away. But we have a lot of stuff promised. Not everything will show up, but, little by little, we're adding to it. We're trying to do it properly without bringing things in that will frighten or offend anybody. We've had people walk in and walk right out. We've had a lot of sensitives come through. Actually, we get a lot of sensitives come through. And a lot of times you see them, they get overwhelmed, and you can see they're uncomfortable. We'll actually escort them out of the building and talk to them, let them get some air. If it doesn't happen here, it happens at Lakeland. It doesn't happen at Lakeland, sometimes it happens at person's ordinary. It's where they feel stuff. We've had one woman who's a sensitive, who's been back here, I guess almost 10 times now. She comes by all the time. And she's got a job where she can't admit she's a sensitive and stuff, and doesn't, not one to talk to anyone about it. But here she can be herself. She can go through it, and she loves us to come here and get the vibes. Matter of fact, last time she was here, we brought her up to this is a very old house where we've got a lot of paranormal activity at the museum's in. Went up to the 3rd floor, and that's just an attic. It's not finished, and she was saying that she feels there's a child hiding up there. And there's things hidden. There's something hidden up here in the walls. They're looking for something. There's something in the walls. And so actually we went through, and most of the walls don't have much in the way of lumber or anything on it. So I'm digging through, and I'm finding old pieces of concrete where the chimneys used to go through the center. And we actually found those toys up there in one of those in the beam spaces. Just an old metal toy, like a bowling pin and a block, all obviously aged stuff. We found women's shoes in another spot. And actually I got to continue to go up there and look. I mean, because she swears out there's paperwork, something on this. I don't know what it is. But it's crazy. I mean, if you're not a believer, you come along, you're going to leave here at minimum skeptical, because things happen. It's hard to explain.
All right, tell me about the Littleton sightings.
We've had multiple sightings now of a bipedal creature in Littleton. We've heard about them about a year ago, but they were just outside the town. And that's when we went out hunting, and we found some prints. We got lots of more stories. But as funny as it is, it's right behind the museum here, 1 block behind, where we're located here. The first sighting we've gotten was right back here on Moore Street. And it was a woman who literally just looked out her back window. It was about 6 in the morning. She was talking to her mother about who was going to drop her daughter off at kindergarten. And she heard a crunching outside. So she looked outside, saw this large, black, hairy creature walking through at a good rate of speed, and flipped out. So her mother knew something was wrong. She's trying to explain to her mother what she saw. So her mother ended up coming over, but told her to call me. Of course, I missed a call now at that hour. And by the time I called him back, the mother was there. So I ran over there with a camera and stuff to document it and interview her. And basically what it was is behind the house here, it was heading north this way. We went back there. We could find imprints, but with all the leaf litter and it being frozen out there, we didn't get anything, unfortunately, except just photos and an interview. Shortly after that, a woman up here, a friend of hers, called her and said they saw something up here, although I haven't got a chance to interview her. And that was like the day after. Since then now, we've had another woman who's come forward, and she said about 9 years ago, she lived up here and saw something in that same piece of woods that's back here, heading this direction, heading south. And the way she's explaining it sounds identical. So now we've got 3 sightings right in this small area here. We've had many more. And this woman actually called me back a week later to tell me that she actually heard a noise again, looked outside and saw eye shine. It was still dark out there. It flipped her out. Later in the day, she went out, and this is after her daughter left, and she actually found prints in the backyard. Now, it was frozen, so these didn't really come out as well as we would have liked. And the reason it's in the box is because it's so brittle, because the plaster of Paris didn't set, and so I have to keep it from breaking. The other print actually snapped in half, unfortunately. But so we actually found prints in the backyard, so something's there. She's had garbage disappear. She put a bag of garbage out on the porch before she brought it out to the garbage can, before she was set to go, and go out later and the whole bag of garbage is gone. So we've had a lot of strange things. As a matter of fact, she's moving now, so she wants nothing to do with this, and she's even told her daughter that it didn't happen because she was so upset. So we've had a flood of more stories coming in, things about the genetics lab down by the Smithfield genetics lab down the road, all kinds of stories coming out of there. It's just taking on a life of its own.
So, do you think there's a Bigfoot around?
There's something around. The people that we're getting talking are not your typical Bigfooters, or the people that are watching Finding Bigfoot on TV or Mountain Monsters or anything like that. These people, when they explain it, they generally go where they're comfortable. Two women who've talked to us have said it looked almost like a wolfman sort of creature. Another one referred to it as a monkey, like a gorilla. So they're not jumping to Bigfoot right away, but when they explain what it looked like, the coloration, the size, the way it walked, the fact it had buttocks, I mean, it just seemed, right away, it sounds Bigfootish to me. It kind of fits the mold. So it's hard not to go there. I mean, I think if we had a grill around here, we'd know it.